Hello there. Welcome back to Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, Part 6, Episode 5, Shadowkeeper.
Then I'll let everyone else take care of it.
The Doc IAB said these words and disappeared. A food penalty and a survival penalty. I already knew about the former penalty, however the latter wasn't in the original ways of survival. Maybe my contract with Gilyoung caused this development. Jung Hae-won confirmed that the biscuit in her pocket had disappeared and asked in a soft voice, "Dr. C, did you perhaps know something like this would happen?" I did expect it. I thought about what the Doc Abies would do first to harass humans. Oh, aren't you really good at making predictions? I called Lee Hyun-sung and the others over. The situation was created, and now it was time to move. "Give back her food!"
How did this happen?
The people of the marginalized group were crying. Sean In-ho and the mainstream group were also devastated by the sudden food shortage. My eyes met Sean In-ho's, who bit his lip. "Perhaps... were you aware of it?" "No, that's impossible. If I could read his thoughts, then that's probably what he would be thinking."
You have accurately read the thoughts of character Sean In-ho. Your understanding of the character Sean In-ho has increased.
My understanding rose from this sort of thing? I looked at other people's expressions and tried to guess what they were thinking, but the previous messages didn't pop up. Meanwhile, Sean In-ho quickly gathered the people together in order to organize the chaos. "Everyone, gather together. I will give you an emergency notice." The contents of the notice were simple. The situation had become worse, so more scouts from the marginalized group were needed, and they had to hurry because there was no food underground. "We won't distribute food to people who don't participate as scouts." Despite the hardline declaration, there was no backlash from the citizens. They couldn't. It was an inevitable result of this situation. The people noticed it and volunteered to be scouts one by one. Despite the disappearance of the food, hope remained on Sean In-ho's face. For as the situation became worse, more control was passed onto the mainstream group. Lee Hyun-sung became anxious when he saw this and opened his mouth. "Dr. C, what now?" "Of course, we have to go and get food." The expressions of the party members became tense at these words. Obtain food. This meant only one thing. "Then we have to be scouts? There is still food remaining above ground." "No, we won't go above ground. If we go there, we will unconditionally die." I looked at the gas mask on the floor. This tattered gas mask couldn't stop the poisonous fog. "But we need to obtain food above ground." "Lee Hyun-sung, see, the world has changed. Then the food needs to change." I looked at the tunnel to Yaksu Station. Wait a minute. Dr. C, don't tell me." "That's right. In this world, humans were no longer the top predators. Even if we weren't predators, we didn't necessarily have to be prey. We will hunt monsters." After a while, several people from the marginalized group, including myself, were standing in front of the tunnel towards Yaksu Station. "I see. You're going to enter the railway track." I thought Sean In-ho would challenge us when we refused to join the scouting group, but he seemed relieved that I was out of the group. He might think that I was a threat to his own power.
"Well, looking at it in the long run, a team dedicated to attacking the scenario is required. Come back safely."
He was a funny guy. He spoke like he was the captain, but the time for him to be finished wasn't far off.
"Your understanding of the character Sean In-ho has increased. Your understanding of the character Sean In-ho has reached a certain level."
"I see. All right, I got it now. There were two major cases of character understanding rising. One was when I got the liking or trust of the character, and the second was when I accurately guessed what the character was thinking. Maybe now was the latter case."
"The character Sean In-ho is suspicious of you."
According to the accumulated understanding value, a vague idea of the person's emotions could be obtained. Oh, can one of my group members join? I'd like to get some information on the attack. Indeed, Shun Hin Ho wouldn't let us go so easily. I stared at the man behind him. It was the person who would go with us, and one unlucky fellow.
I have to go with it. Oh, why else are you here, Han Hyung? Don't you want to reconcile with Dr. C last night? Oh, well,
Shun In Ho's party member who joined us was department head Han Mignon.
Dr. C, if you don't mind, I'll go.
I understand. Let's go together. Han Mingyo was surprised when I responded readily. He thought I'd refuse. Li Song had a worried face, but I had an idea. In any case, the survivors' party of the 5 people from Carriage 3807 consisted of me, Li Song, Li Gilyoung, Yu Sang-ah, and Han Mingyo, who were reformed. Can I come as well? Is it okay, even if your body isn't fully healed? This much is fine. There was one more, including Jung Hae-won. There was a total of 6 people in the party. It was a lot for a small number. Of course, the number of people wasn't much in front of the upcoming crisis.
A new sub-scenario has arrived. Second scenario, food acquisition. Category, sub. Difficulty, E. Clear conditions. Directly hunt the monsters that can be used as food and cook them. Time limit, none. Compensation, 500 coins. Failure, unknown.
As soon as they stepped foot in the tunnel, a sub-scenario flew in. Food acquisition. It was a sub-scenario we had to go through before entering the second main scenario.
A few constellations are anticipating your performance.
The darkness of the tunnel became apparent before we even moved 10 steps. I lit up the tunnel with a flashlight, but the outline of the surrounding area wasn't visible at all. It was proof of a certain curtain that was blocking the light. The real thing would be beyond this curtain. Dr. C, wait a minute. It is really dangerous from here on. Jung Hae-won, who walked beside me, stopped first. Are we really going this way? No matter how I look, it seems like suicide. There's also Gilyoung. In fact, I was also concerned from the beginning. Isn't it too late? So how about we leave Gilyoung behind? And if possible, the women... Li Sung-si, I'm not as good as you, but I know how to fight. I took some kendo lessons. But... An unnecessary controversy was about to heat up the atmosphere, so I interrupted. Li Sung-si, I told you before, the world has changed. It is biased that a woman is physically weak. Right now, everyone can be stronger by raising their stats. But, Jung Hae-won, see, there is also a problem with your words. What is it? Just as a woman isn't weak, a child also isn't weak. Gilyoung, show them. Lee Gilyoung came forward. He looked around for a while before sitting on the tunnel floor and reaching out his hand. Jung Hae-won's eyes widened. Oh my god. What is that?
Cockroaches!
Han Mingyo cried out with fear. The cockroach that appeared in the distance was connected to Lee Gilyoung's fingertips with a faint, solid line. The cockroach listened to Lee Gilyoung's words like a well-behaved dog and disappeared into the darkness. My attribute is Insect Collector. Insect Collector. Lee Gilyoung possessed the rare ability to communicate simply with insects through his diverse communication skills. There's nothing in front of us. It's safe for 100 steps forward. Lee Gilyoung showed an overwhelming scouting power, and the other people made a stunned expression. Lee Gilyoung spoke to them with a bold expression. Thank you for your concern, but I didn't follow all of you for you to take care of me. Ah, yes. Jung Hae-won nodded with a sour expression. Lee Gilyoung came to my side and I stroked his hair. Lee Gilyoung's attribute hadn't been seen in the original Ways of Survival. It wasn't a wrong choice to save Liu Gilyoung in the beginning. We passed a clear barrier and entered the full-fledged darkness.
You have entered a dangerous area.
You Sangasi, it's dangerous to hold my hand while walking. Aren't you more afraid than I am?
No?
The air inside the curtain was sticky from the humidity. Reduce the light. Yu Sung-ar immediately covered the flashlight. Since this model didn't have a light control function, she had to adjust the light with her hand.
Ah! Don't shine it downwards!
Jung Hae-won felt nauseous when she checked the ground. Those torn bodies. The bodies of those who tried to move through here were arranged at their feet. Yu Sung-ar closed her eyes tightly, and Han Mingyeo shook, and even the bold Lee Hyun-sung started sweating. Lee Gilyoung was surprisingly calm, with not the slightest bit of fear on his face. I felt a bit worried. This guy, did he think it was all a game?
There is something that isn't human.
As Lee Gilyoung said, it wasn't only the bodies of humans on the ground. There was something the size of a fully grown wolf. The bodies of the mole-like creatures were scattered all over the place. The 9th grade underground species, the ground rat. It was a name reminiscent of a bug on Earth, but a name was just a name. They were underground piranhas. The ground rats were persistent hunters who burrowed through the ground in groups and aimed at their prey. However, the ground rats collapsed like they had received a bombardment. Jung Hae-won sighed.
Who the hell did this?
Obviously, there was only one human who could turn the ground rats into this. Liu Xiong-hyuk. He proceeded to the next station through this path alone. But I couldn't help wondering. Originally, it was supposed to be tonight or tomorrow when the third turn Yu Xiong-hyuk moved to the next station. Why was he so hasty? Did he become impatient? What was the reason?
Dr. Z, can we use this for food?
The scenario said that we have to hunt it ourselves, so maybe it isn't possible. Well, it is kind of uncomfortable. What about cooking? Do you want to bake it on a fire? It could be baked, but the problem was it must be a special fire. Hey, Wensi, you said you were good at kendo?
It's a bit much to say I'm good. But wait, what are you doing now?
I stabbed the body of the ground rat and started to cut it with a knife. I didn't know when I read it in the novel, but it didn't go as well as I thought. After somehow getting rid of the tough skin, I managed to remove the spine bones. It was the first time I'd left so many scratches, but it was usable.
What? Why are you taking that?
You need a weapon for kendo. The stone hog's thorn wasn't enough, but the spine of the ground rat consisted of a single bone, making it a pretty good weapon at the beginning of the scenario. After cutting the cartilage leading to the leg and shaping it, the bone actually took the shape of a knife. I gave it to Jung Hae-won.
Thank you. Suddenly I feel like I'm back to the Paleolithic age.
You need to grind it a bit more for it to be useful. There are rocks around, so skillfully grind the blade. Understood, Captain. Jung Hae-won started to grind the blade with a slightly excited voice. I looked up and saw Lee Hyun-sung watching the scene with a bit of envy. Do you want one? Will you make me one? All of you, come closer. It's better if you learned how to do it. Let's make it together. In fact, this was also my first time trying it. I wouldn't have been able to do it if the details hadn't been included in Ways of Survival. Why wasn't Ways of Survival popular? It was simple. The author wrote too much of the setting. Dr. C, you're a beginner, but you're good at it. We sat down and made weapons together. This time it was a spear, not a sword. They didn't have the kendo skill, so I decided it was more stable to make a long spear. Lee Hyun-sung's spear was made with the spine of the largest ground rat, while Yu Sung-ar and Han Mung-yeo's weapons were made with the spines of average ground-sized rats. And finally, Lee Gilyoung's weapon was made with the head bone of a young ground rat.
You have succeeded in acquiring weapons by yourself. A very small number of constellations are interested in the primitive nature of humanity. The constellations have sponsored you 100 coins.
Everyone received these messages. We receive coins even for this kind of thing? I don't want you to die. You have your own coins? Yeah, we do. Whenever possible, leave enough coins for the survival cost and invest the rest in your strength, stamina, and agility. Otherwise, you won't survive. I'll keep that in mind. We finished the preparations and started to move forward again. The 100 step that Gilyoung mentioned was right in front of us now.
The sub-scenario, food acquisition, has begun.
The ground rats crawled out from the ground. I quickly counted the numbers. 1, 2, 3. There were exactly 13. It was more than I thought. Grrr. The group of land rats drew a line and started threatening us. The moment we crossed that line, the fight would begin. There is no plan. We're beginners. It might sound cruel, but honestly, I don't expect you to survive. That still, all of you survive. Please. Han Ming-yo was the only upset one in the party. Everyone else was nervous but looked determined, and in particular, Zheng Heiwan's eyes were very impressive.
Okay, let's try it. Everybody, please live!
Just as Lu Zhonghyuk tested me, I also had expectations for them. No matter how good a mentor, a person who wasn't determined couldn't survive in this world. And in the end, it was up to the person to save themselves. Everyone should use this opportunity to realize it clearly. Then let's go. I also knew who I must take amongst these people. And as we took one more step, the ground rats moved, and the battle begun. Chapter 20, Episode 5, Shadowkeeper Part 2. The party fought well. It was actually a little surprising. In particular, Lee Hyun-sung and Jung Hae-won, who stepped forward with me, were very influential. The battle composition naturally became the three of us in front, with the other three in the rear, and less than a minute after the battle began, a few ground rats were stuck on the ground with their necks pierced. Lee Hyun-sung overpowered another ground rat, wiped the sweat off his forehead, and said, I think I can live. Once they raised their overall stats, the human race wasn't that weak. Even so, Lee Hyun-sung's mentality was very special in this world. A normal human couldn't be so nonchalant when encountering monsters. There was a reason why he got the name the Steel Sword in the future. However, the more amazing person was Jung Hae-won. Kinda simpler than I thought. Maybe it was due to the kendo skill, but every time her sword stretched out, the ground rat was cut somewhere on their legs or tail. It was a case where Jung Hae-won invested most of her coins into strength. Her endurance declined due to it, but the power of one blow was better than I thought. Her sword moved in a terrifying manner through the air. Damn, I lost one. Please! Her voice trembled as she spoke. Her only weakness was that her stamina was low, so her endurance fell. The ground rats who moved between the party members were moderately smart. After succeeding in scattering the ranks, they ran towards the opponent who seemed the weakest, using a hunter's instincts. Leave it to me. However, the ground rats didn't know that they'd picked the wrong opponent. Pew! A blunt instrument thrown by Lee Gilyoung's hand struck the head of a ground rat. The impact was lacking because he was a child, but it was enough. The others could help him finish it. Boom! Yu Sung-a's spear pierced the body of the ground rat, and the ground rat twisted several times. Yu Sung-a made a confused expression, but she didn't remove her hand from the spear. The ground rat eventually lost its energy and fell down. I honestly thought it would be difficult for Yu Sung-a to adapt, but I was really surprised. Usually, it was normal to panic, like Han Ming-yo standing over there. As the people were struggling, one person was hiding in the rear. He couldn't even hide properly and was bleeding near the shins. I pierced the last ground rat with the thorn and the surroundings became quiet. I shook the blood off the thorn and looked at everyone. Everyone suffered from minor abrasions except for Han Ming-yo, but there were no major injuries. It was a great first victory. Yu Sung-a and Lee Gilyoung relaxed and sat down, while Lee Hyun-sung stabbed his spear into the ground and wiped at the sweat on his forehead. Jung Hae-won lamented as she counted the number of ground rats in the vicinity. Dr. C, how many did you take care of? 4 of them. I killed 2. I got 3. My pride was somehow hurt when I heard Li Hyun-sung's proud declaration. There was only one difference despite my stats. I used a skill and looked at Li Hyun-sung's attributes window.
Character information. Name, Lee Hyun-sung. Age, 28 years old. Constellation sponsor, Master of Steel. Private attribute, soldier who turned a blind eye to injustice, general. Exclusive skills, bayonet skills, level 2. Camouflage, level 1. Patience, level 1. Sense of justice, level 1. Weapons training, level 2. Stigma, Great Mountain Push, level 1. Overall stats, stamina, level 12, strength, level 9, agility, level 9, magic power, level 6. Overall evaluation, the moment of the attribute evolution is gradually approaching. The person's trust in you is considerable. The sponsor behind him is wary towards you. Asterisk, starter pack is currently applied.
The starter pack. That's why he was so strong. Master of Steel seemed to quite like Li Hyun-sung. The starter pack was a coin package that could be used when the average overall stats of the incarnation was less than level 10. It was a good item that allowed you to learn weapons training, a useful skill in the beginning, while raising the level of the overall stats by 1. Considering the fact that most incarnations were being exploited for nothing, Li Hyun-sung was lucky to receive the starter pack. Dr. C, your complexion doesn't look good. No, I was just thinking for a moment. Now, I was a little bit envious. Well, I did have the money to buy it. I just didn't buy it. My overall stats exceeded level 10, so buying it would only damage me, honestly. Damn. I opened the Dr. AB bag a bit early. Let's gather up the ground rats. We need to prepare today's food.
By the way, how will we cook it? We can't eat it like this.
We can't eat it now, but there will be a way. I guess I answered too calmly. There was silence among my party members. Li Hyun-sung was the first one to open his mouth. Excuse me. I would like to ask you one thing. Yeah? Dr. C, perhaps... Do you know something about this situation? Oops, I made a mistake. Oh, that... Suddenly, I remember the regresses in the novel I read, followed by Yu Jung-hyuk's words. It was like this. The feeling of a regressor. Usually, these types of things only happen to a regressor. Some replies came to mind. I could shamelessly say that it was a hunch, or I could lie like Yu Jung-hyuk.
The constellation Secretive Platter is anticipating your choice. A few constellations are anticipating your answer.
But from a reader's point of view, the best answer was... It was to create a situation where I didn't need to say anything at all.
The constellation Secretive Platter nods at your choice. There's still one left!
Jung Hae-won shouted, and Li Hyun-sung ran. However, the action of the hidden ground rats was faster than anyone else. It was much bigger than the other creatures.
Save me!
It dragged Han Ming-yo into a tunnel by one of his legs. The nearest Yu Sang-ah swung her spear, but the situation got worse, because Han Ming-yo held on to her. Grab this! Li Hyun-sung stretched out the handle of his spear, but it only hit the ground. The ground rat and the two people had already disappeared into the ground.
The constellation, prisoner of the golden headband, resents this frustrating person.
Jun Hae-won burst out.
I knew I was going to get cancer because of that uncle.
I'm sorry. I was too late. Li Hyun-sung spoke in a sad voice. I tapped his shoulder to show it was okay. No one could have done anything. Should we chase after them? I looked at the hole where they disappeared. It wasn't an ordinary hole. There was a touch of energy around it, and the darkness gave off a gloomy feeling. I retreated to the back and turned on my smartphone. There was only 5% battery remaining. At dawn, I exchanged one battery charge for food with a person from the marginalized group.
Your reading speed has increased due to the effect of the exclusive attribute.
Shortly after, I was able to find the desired passage. The edge of darkness is the habitat of the ground rats, and is a type of subspace emitted from the dark root. The ground rats that breathe in black ether instead of oxygen don't grow naturally unless they are near the edge of darkness. It was a fact that I knew roughly, but it was meaningful to review it. That's right. This was the entrance to the edge of darkness. I read about it, put the smartphone in my pocket. Doctor C? Lee Hyun-sung was looking at me with a frustrated expression. I nodded. We'll enter. Then. But it is very dangerous to enter with a lot of people. Lee Hyun-sung Si and Jung Hae-won Si will wait here at the boundary. If something happens, I'll give you a signal. This startled Jung Hae-won, and she asked, Surely you don't intend to go only with Gilyoung? Gilyoung's ability will be helpful in pursuing them. The moment she tried to strongly resist, I raised a hand and called to Lee Hyun-sung. Lee Hyun-sung Si, Jung Hae-won Si isn't in a good condition, so please take care of her. Lee Hyun-sung seemed to realize something. I understand.
Wait a minute, I am fine.
Jung Hae-won, confidence is good, but don't be reckless. Jung Hae-won's breathing was uneven. She wasn't completely healed from the poisonous fog. I left the two people and entered the hole with Lee Gilyoung. It was obviously a hole that was dug down in a vertical slope, but as soon as we entered, we could stand as if gravity was in effect. It was due to the magic power emitted by the edge of darkness.
This way.
The darkness was so deep that I couldn't see anything, so I could only move forward with Lee Gilyoung. Black ether had the property of absorbing light, making a flashlight meaningless. If Lee Gilyoung's ability, diverse communication, wasn't available, I might have to use coins again.
Excuse me, Hyung.
Lee Gilyoung called out to me.
Did you do it on purpose?
What?
When that uncle grabbed Nooner and a juicy, you let it go.
I had a moment of hesitation. In the darkness, Lee Gilyoung's fingertips were strange. Before I could ask how he knew, Lee Gilyoung spoke.
At that time, I was looking at Hyung's face.
He was watching me, even in those short moments. Very scary kid. There's no good hiding from a person who was so quick. Yeah, that's right. The answer was terrible, and a message bomb was set off in my head. Indeed, this was a spectacle for the constellations.
The constellations of absolute good frowned at your cruelty. The constellation's secretive plotter is pressing you with shining eyes. Why did you do that?
Because of the habit of the ground rats. I decided to answer honestly. The ground rats have a habit of keeping their catches in the same place as their treasure. It isn't just food. Many things that seem rare are gathered. For example, an item. However, the paths are so complicated that it can't be found unless I follow their path directly. Lee Gilyoung was silent for a moment. I continued speaking. I expected them to take Han Minyo, but I didn't expect him to grab onto Yu Sang-ha.
Then your purpose isn't to save Nuna or Arjusi? Is it the items?
Yeah. Are you disappointed?
No.
Lee Gilyoung's small hand gripped my finger tightly.
Hyung shouldn't lie. If Hyung was such a person, you wouldn't have saved me on the subway. I believe in you.
Lee Gilyoung didn't act like a child, but he was still a child. Lee Gilyoung didn't know. To be mature and to be an adult were completely different things.
Some constellations are touched to tears. 200 coins have been sponsored.
In this world, there were mean adults who'd take advantage of such maturity. The hole was longer than I thought, and we had to go downwards for quite a long time.
Hyung?
Yes?
Hyung, are you a god?
What?
Or the main character?
Children sometimes ask sharp questions. It was because they lived in a world where stories and reality weren't clearly distinguished. Lee Gilyoung didn't know exactly what his question meant. No, I'm not a main character. Rather, I always envy the main character.
But you still know something about this world.
I thought for a moment before replying. Yeah, that's right.
Then I'll ask you one thing.
I'll answer it if I can.
Once we clear all the scenarios, can we make a wish?
A wish? I was a bit confused.
Usually there's a reward at the end of these stories. And at the end of the story, is there something like that?
In the darkness, Lee Gilyoung's breathing was trembling. Lee Gilyoung's expression was he saw his dead mother suddenly come to mind. Those who adapted for this world suffered from it in different ways. Some were crazy, some were fanatics, and some had irrational optimism. Yeah, there is. I was grateful that this place was dark. It was because Lee Gilyoung couldn't see my face right now.
We're almost there, Hyung.
The surrounding black ether was shrinking rapidly. It was evidence that the dark root was nearby. I tensed up and gripped the thorn.
A few constellations are holding their breaths.
I heard the sound of the ground rats somewhere on the ground, and as the sound got closer, the sense of space expanded rapidly. I saw a light in the darkness, as if someone had lit a fire. And then I saw a tattered box beyond that light. The moment I was convinced that I had come to the right place, messages rang in my ears.
The sub-scenario has been updated. You have entered the Ground Rat's Treasure Trove.
Chapter 21, Episode 5, Shadowkeeper, Part 3.
Hyung, this...
Right after Lee Gilyoung discovered the treasure box, I blocked his little mouth. Shh, wait. The world of Ways of Survival was relentless. The constellations enjoy the adversity of the characters and added obstacles in the scenarios just to fuck with the humans. Things saying, "catch me," usually contained traps, and even system messages couldn't be trusted. The treasure trove doesn't just contain treasures.
The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon is disappointed.
Abyssal Black Flame Dragon. He'd wanted me to die for a while. Anyway, I waited, and shortly after, shadows started to emerge around the treasure chest. It was the ground rats. They'd brought something through the tunnel, through it, and exchanged information. Once a certain number of ground rats had gathered, the number of lights illuminating the surroundings increased. There was black fire, flames made with black ether. It was said that this place was the core of Darkroot, which is why it had so much black ether to burn, and at that time, someone's voice was heard.
It's all because of you Sung-ah, see?
There was no need to say who he was. It was a voice I'd know at once. I gripped the shoulder of the surprised Lee Gilyoung tightly. It wasn't time yet.
Because of me? What do you mean by that?
In the dim light, there were two people captured by the ground rats. They were tied up tightly by branches that came up from the ground.
If you Sung-ah hadn't taken the subway, the situation wouldn't be like this. Why does the subway matter now?
How could she accept all of this nonsense? Maybe Yu Sung-ah was a saintly person, or maybe the sponsor behind her was a saintly person.
But you Sung-ah, you rode a bicycle all the time.
Han Meng-yo's voice shook as he wrote gibberish. Yu Sung-ah's tone was cold.
Wait a minute. Were you the one who stole my bike? What is this person? I clearly told you I'd drive you in my car. You should know how to accept favors. Answer me, did you steal my bike?
All of a sudden, the situation made sense. This was it. It was why a person who drove a Mercedes-Benz S-Class took the subway line 3. Well, it wasn't strange. There were quite a few men who had their eyes on Yu Sung-ah, not just at the company, but at Gumho Station as well. In fact, Yu Sung-ah was a worthy person. Her atmosphere was warm, and she knew how to flatter people.
The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire hates the character Han Meng-yo.
Han Meng-yo's face was so red that it could clearly be seen in the dim lighting. It looked dangerous.
Yeah, shit, I did it. So what? Why are you talking like it isn't a big deal? You took someone else's things. It is theft. Theft? Oh, don't talk bullshit. You just should have got on my car from the beginning. The constellation, the prisoner of the golden headband, hates this trivial argument.
I didn't mean to do this, but there was no other way now. I quietly gripped the thorn. I didn't ask you just one thing. I continuously asked to take you home, but you just kept fucking rejecting me. I threw the thorn as hard as I could. The thorn scratched the corner of Han Mingyo's mouth and continued through the darkness.
What? The constellation, prisoner of the golden headband, is praised. 100 coins have been sponsored. Dr. C!
Yu Sung-ah called out to me, but I wasn't looking at them. Across the habitat of the ground rats, the darkness was split apart by the thorn. Then, that damned guy came. There was no way it wouldn't be in Dark Root.
Dark Keeper could appear. The sub-scenario has been updated. Sub-scenario, kill the guard, has begun.
Like slaves surrendering to a king, the terrified ground rats fell to the ground, and a dark figure appeared in the dim light, a tentacled monster reminiscent of a god of death. Lee Gilyoung's complexion deteriorated sharply.
That...
It's okay. Eventually, Lee Gilyoung fell to the ground and started retching. It wasn't strange. A lot of pressure was felt just looking at it from afar. The cockroaches crawling around Long had their stomachs exploded, and Lee Gilyoung, who was connected to the cockroaches, would have suffered considerable mental damage. Lee Gilyoung, how many more times can you use diverse communication?
I think I can do it 1 or 2 more times.
I understand. Then rest here for a while. I left Gilyoung leaning against the side and approached Yu Sung-ha and Han Mingyo. The panicked Han Mingyo was struggling.
What is this?
I took the swift knife and cut the branches binding the two of them. I only moved the knife a few times. Then part of the branch that it touched abruptly corroded and the blade melted away. Yeah, this was the power of a demonic species. Stay back, I said while raising a weapon made of the spine of a ground rat. The Grade 7 demon-type species, Dark Keeper. Among the many monsters that appeared since the start of the destruction, the demon species were toxic. In fact, the treasures of the ground rats were so close to the tributes to the demon. Even if it was the same grade, the demon species were different from other monster species.
The Dark Keeper has received the favor of the Demon King it follows.
Kamyon, there, Yitter. The demon species had their own language, worshipped different demon kings, and inherited some of the power of the demon thing through the Dark Root.
The Demon Keeper has emitted fear. The exclusive skill Fourth Wall has neutralized most of the fear effect.
Therefore, killing one demon meant becoming the adversary of their demon king. Itar! I didn't know what it was saying, but the situation didn't look good. I didn't want to fight if possible.
Mother?
Yu Sung-ah. She still hadn't left. I told you to stay back.
That monster just said, Mother.
I thought for a moment about what this meant. Oh, wait a minute.
I think... crowd? Amiren? This is the pronunciation.
For a moment, I thought I was mistaken. But I didn't hear wrong. Surprisingly, the Dark Keeper nodded at the end.
The character Yu Sung-ah has activated the Interpreter Level 3 skill.
Oh my god. She wasn't only good at Spanish. Let's see what would happen. What is he saying?
That it keeps saying, become mother.
Become mother? The Dark Keeper cried out again and pointed to Yu Sung-ah. Kalta! Yu Sung-ah had a tearful face.
Mother, I'm not married yet.
The Dark Keeper pointed at Han Mingyo. Kalta! Han Ming-yo turned pale as he wiped his mouth. Why am I the mother? Father! The Dark Keeper's tentacles rose. One of the tentacles entered his mouth, and Han Ming-yo turned black. There was the sound of something moving down Han Ming-yo's throat. That's right. This is what it meant to become the mother. I belatedly recalled that the demon species conceived their young in the bodies of other species. You, Sagasi, you don't plan to have a child yet, right? Of course. Yu Sang-ai immediately understood the words and stepped back quickly. I swung the ground rat spear and tore at the tentacles attached to Han Ming-yo. The Dark Keeper roared angrily. Kanto! The tentacles of the demon species were gradually breaking the ground rat spear. Even the stone hogthorn, which broke through the stomach of an ichthyosaur, would have been destroyed the moment it was struck in a demon's body. Before I knew it, Han Ming-yo was far away while Yu Sang-ai looked at me. Is there a chance? Her eyes seemed to be asking me. And to tell the truth, no, I didn't have a chance. After a few strikes, the ground rat spear was almost destroyed, and the hand holding the spear was in severe pain. The monster guarding the treasure chest couldn't be caught, just like the ichthyosaur of Dongho Bridge. That's why the original plan wasn't to deal with this monster, but to obtain the treasure chest after it disappeared. But as always, plans existed for things to go wrong. Duck Abe, are you watching?
You knew?
The Duck Abe showed up in the darkness. I didn't know his name, but he seemed to be a cousin of Gilyoung. There should be mail for me by now. I want you to hand it over quickly.
It isn't my responsibility. It is Gilyoung's thing.
Right now, you're taking Gilyoung's page. Don't you see the constellations complaining?
The constellation, prisoner of the golden headband, wants to scold the Dakaebi, Biryu. The constellation, demon-like judge of fire, threatens the Dakaebi, Biryu.
The Dakaebi Biryu gulped.
Okay. Instead, it's just this once. I think it'll be interesting.
The Dakaebi muttered something, and the summoning began.
The item has arrived from the exchange. The item Broken Faith has been acquired. The brokerage fee was exempted due to the effect of the contract.
Broken Faith. The item bartered from the Ichthyosaur Core, which was registered on the Dakaebi Bank Exchange, had finally arrived. Kick! The Dark Keeper saw the item coming out of thin air and laughed. No wonder it was laughing. All I received was a D-grade item. It was a knife broken in half.
The item is too old to use. The durability will be poor, and it will be difficult to achieve any performance.
Even the Dakaebi who gave him the item was giggly.
How can you fight with that old thing? Can't be used if you don't have a special skill.
I knew that much. I wouldn't have bought it if I didn't know. I sucked in a breath and concentrated my mind. King. The hilt started trembling greatly. Biliu shouted with shock.
How?
It was natural to be surprised. It was because this was a skill I bought from his friend for a huge 10,000 coins. Blue ether started to settle slowly on the surface of the broken blade. White, pure star energy. After killing the Ichthyosaur, I bought this skill from Gilyoung. There are a few flaws compared to the other superior energy techniques, but there wasn't something that could be obtained for the time being.
Broken Faith has responded to your star energy. Blade of Faith has activated.
Shortly after, a brilliant right vertical blade sprang up from the edge of the broken blade. Broken Faith. Its real performance was revealed when star energy was injected into it. The number of tentacles increased by dozens and covered my field of view. I wouldn't be safe from these attacks with my current stamina level. It was scary, but now there was a chance. It was because the Blade of Faith was the best quality weapon when it came to demon species specifically. The tentacles touched the blade, were oxidized and cut off. The Dark Keeper let out a terrifying, terrible scream as the tentacles were destroyed. I felt magic power draining out, but I wasn't in a hurry. I calmly moved the blade. I missed the tentacles many times because he didn't have the fighting senses skill, and I didn't have the swordsmanship training skill either, so the way I wielded the blade was durable. It was natural. I was a reader, not a swordsman. And a reader fought in the manner of a reader.
The attribute effect has improved your memories of the pages already read.
The pages of Ways of Destruction flashed in my head. The Dark Keeper's attack pattern is simple. Unconditionally, the tentacles on the upper right will first, and after the attack, a single tentacle at the bottom. Its tentacles regenerate, but it will take a few minutes. I read diligently and used what I had read. On the other side of my field of view was Gilyoung. The young boy looked at me with awed eyes. Unfortunately, unlike his wishes, I wasn't the main character in this world, but I was confident at least one thing.
Bien dar.
The Dark Keeper muttered as it barely managed to pull itself together from its shock. I didn't ask, but Yusung muttered from behind me in a quivering voice. How do you know all of my weaknesses? This was what it meant. So I gave an answer in a light manner. I usually read a lot of books. I knew more about this world than anyone else. Chapter 22, Episode 5, Part 4. Maybe we would have fought for a long time.
The exclusive skill bookmark can now be activated. The number 2 bookmark has been activated. The level of the bookmark skill is low, shortening the activation time. Activation time, 1 minute.
Well, I had this. Otherwise my bones might be torn off. My bones or my blood might clot.
Your understanding of the character is low, so only a part of the character skill is activated. Weapons training level 1 has been activated.
But it didn't. To be exact, I couldn't afford it. I used all of the powers that I had. I squeezed out all of my strength and ran through the tentacles. The landscape around me flashed by, and the only thing left was the afterimage of a sharp white light, the sense of cutting something.
Your understanding of the character Lee Hyun-sung has increased. The number 2 bookmark has been disabled.
I felt like I'd lost strength. I'd pour out everything into one blow. Then after a while, I heard a trembling voice in the air.
Constellations? Did you all see it? I didn't see wrong?
It was the appearance of Dr. Abi Biryu, who had forgotten his duties. In fact, it wasn't strange to be surprised.
A few constellations are doubting their eyes. The constellation Abyssal Flame Black Dragon is flaring fiercely. It was
a powerful grade 7 demon lying down, with damaged tentacles in front of me.
The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband pulls his hair as if he's pleased. 500 coins have been sponsored.
The several tentacles lay on the ground, and the surrounding ground rats had long been killed or fled in the aftermath of the fight. Only the Dark Keeper lay breathing roughly on the ground, its lips twitching. Originally, the grade 7 demon was an enemy that I couldn't cope with. Thus, I was prepared. I wasn't as strong as Yu Hyuk, and I didn't have a good sponsor like Lee Hyun-sung.
The obsessive compulsive constellations praise your readiness. 200 coins have been sponsored.
It was just the information I had was more advantageous than others. And sometimes, information was more powerful than anything in the world. The very result of that information was the white light sword in my hand right now.
An Etherblade in the beginning scenarios? Constellation, is this a true story?
Fortunately, I didn't have to explain it as the Dokkaebi was in full swing. Etherblade. It was the flagship technique of the incarnation supported by the highest level sponsor. The technique was often called Energy Blade in mirror novels. To be exact, it isn't a real Etherblade. The real one's much stronger than this.
That's right. Strictly speaking, it is Broken Faith that has absorbed the white pure star energy and made the blade.
Looking at the dog Abby, he wasn't a complete idiot.
Amazing. There's this guy in that Pratt Gilyoung's channel.
As if waiting for this, the blade of faith turned off.
Broken Faith's durability has run out. This item is no longer available.
It was a pity, but it did its part. Give me the compensation for finishing the sub-scenario.
Right, that's right. Wait.
Beer hurriedly entered something in the air, and a message soon popped up.
You have met the conditions to clear the sub-scenario. You have earned 500 coins. A handful of constellations admire your scenario.
The reward was smaller than I thought, and it was natural. It's because I haven't killed the Dark Keeper.
By the way, are you not gonna kill that guy?
Biryu looked at me with expectant eyes. I let out an exhausted breath and glanced at the Dark Keeper on the ground. And then I kindly said, I have a non-killing ideology.
Non-killing?
I'm not someone who kills easily.
The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire admires it. 100 coins have been sponsored.
Of course, it was a lie.
The constellation Secret of Platter is smiling at you. 100 coins have been sponsored.
The bewildered Biryu stammered.
Won't the reward be great if you kill this guy? You will be the first to kill a grade 7 demon, and I'll give you 7,000 coins. Do you know how big 7,000 coins is?
I won't kill it. I need to open the compensation box, so please step aside. I removed the irritating Biryu from in front of me. The Dark Keeper wasn't the real reason I came here, so...
The grade 7 demon, Dark Keeper, was killed.
What? The Dark Ivy who looked like it was so funny he would die, and the Dark Keeper who died with a knife in his chest. Then...
No, I can be strong. Doctor, you son of a bitch. You didn't know this.
Han Mingyo was the one holding the knife. I had a rough idea of what happened. Then explosive messages were heard in my ears.
A grade 7 demon has been hunted for the first time. An impossible feat has been accomplished. You have earned 8,000 coins. Contribution, Kim Dakja, Han Mingyo.
Perhaps these messages were also shared with Han Mingyo. I only received a few coins because I didn't deal the finishing blow. But I could see Han Mingyo dying with happiness at the messengers.
Non-killing ideology. Stupid guy, what is killing in this burning world? There can't be a person like you. You know...
Then Han Mingyo stopped. Now he knew what he had done.
The grade 7 demon, Dark Keeper, has been killed, and the Demon King, Asmodeus, has noticed the murderer's presence. The Demon King, Asmodeus, will chase the one who dealt the finishing blow until they are dead. The Demon King, Asmodeus, has put a terrible curse on the person who dealt the final blow. Final blow, Han Mingyo.
What is this message? Han Mingyo cried out fearfully.
The constellation Secret of Platter admires your wickedness.
Didn't I tell you? I intentionally didn't kill it.
The constellation Secret of Platter has recommended your scenario to Starstream.
Han Mingyo stared into the air like he'd lost his soul. The Demon King Asmodeus was the most terrible thing for a killer. I didn't know what it was, but it was surely terrible. I looked back and I saw Lee Gilyoung and Yu Sang-ah looking this way with bemused expressions. I smiled as if nothing had happened. We'll open the rewards together. After a while, we searched through the treasures and pulled out one each. I got this. I'll have this. Yu Sang-ah and Lee Gilyoung found a small bracelet and an old shield, respectively.
Magic Power Recovery Bracelet. Old Iron Shield.
They were both D-grade items, but it'd be better than nothing. The Magic Power Recovery Bracelet was a useful item for everyone, and the old Iron Shield would be good for Lee Hyun-sung. It was difficult to ignore the iron in the name. The iron was much harder than Earth's iron. Yu Sang-ah spoke with slight disappointment. It's less than I thought. Less. Her words weren't wrong. It was too shameful to call this a treasure trove. Gilyoung, the guy who left yesterday, had probably gone through this place. He knew I'd be tired fighting the demon, so he took a chance and stole the treasure. In the end, we were robbing a place that was already robbed.
It's okay, because the main thing is still left.
I looked at the black box in the center of the warehouse. We didn't waste any more time and opened the box. The thing in the box was a stove. It was small enough to fit in the pocket, and it was shameful to call it a stove.
Magic power stove.
As expected, it was still here. This item was in fact the key item in this sub-scenario.
Magic power stove can only be used once per person.
Obviously, Gilyoung had taken one, so there were 2 magic power stoves in total.
What is that thing?
Well, I think I know a bit about its purpose. I purposely trembled, activated the stone with the magic power, and raised a dead ground rat's leg. It was funny since it didn't fit the size of a plate of food, but in 5 seconds, a remarkable change happened to the leg of the ground rat.
Wow, a delicious smell!
There was a sweet smell, and the leg of the ground rat changed to a golden color.
Meat!
Gilyoung cried out excitedly. Gilyoung asked urgently,
Can we eat this?
I'll try it first. I grabbed the greasy hind leg and dug into the flesh. The juices ran from the flesh, and I forgot to chew and just closed my eyes. Ah, man. Tasting it was different from reading it in the book.
A few constellations are drooling. The constellations have sponsored you 100 coins. The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon has swallowed his saliva. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband is biting his nails.
The messages continuously popped up. Indeed, eating broadcasts were the best. Everyone was united in front of food. Eat it. I think it's okay. The 2 people rushed towards the meat as soon as I spoke. They hadn't had a proper meal for 3 days, so they'd been quite hungry. Hanming-yo recovered and came over hesitantly. Doctor C, I went crazy for a second. Eat. Don't worry about the other thing. Thank you. You'll become a ghost after eating. What? Hanming-yo's complexion turned as white as death. I said it like it was a joke, but Hanming-yo really would die. His modious pursuit was even hard for Gilyoung to overcome. We each took one leg and started to eat. We were eating meat together because we were hungry after everything that started. Humans couldn't help it. Everyone ate the meal in silence. Was it due to the light spreading greatly from the magic power stove? I was feeling a bit sentimental. Killing something and eating it in order to live. This was the life of a human. It had been like this so far, but I wondered why it felt so fresh. Suddenly I looked up and met Yusunga's eyes. Yusunga came to her senses and suddenly cried out.
I'm pathetic!
Huh?
Dr. Z works so hard and I am just eating like a pig! I was no help at all!
No, Yusunga, that.
But how does Dr. Z know all of this? You know how to cook a beast and...
That.
Indeed, it must be because you read fantasy novels, right? Really, I didn't know the world was going to be like this. My silly self was just memorizing Spanish.
I felt somewhat strange when I heard Yusunga say this. I opened my mouth to comfort her. It's because Yusunga studied foreign languages that you learned the language of the demon species. Of course, it wasn't very helpful.
I see.
Thank you, Dr. Z. I smiled at Yusunga and got up from where I was sitting. The party was immersed in eating again. I took a break and headed for the back of the party. In fact, the magic power stove was important, but my real purpose was a separate item. I looked closely at the black box that contained the magic power stove. It was this. There was no doubt about it. Gilyoung, who took the magic power stove, probably didn't know about it. The real treasure of this warehouse was this black box. In the original story, Gilyoung only knew about it after around the 6th round of his regression. Who was the first to discover this? Was it Heavenly Maid Hori? Well, it's hard to remember. It wasn't accurate, but it was probably something like this. Over there are strange boxes in the early areas. If you put something in there... At this time, I met Yusunga's eyes. What's the box for? Oh, this? Yusaga said as she looked at the box. There were unknown characters written on it. Could she read them? Random item box? Damn. Yeah, this is why foreign language proficiency was important. Yeah, so that's what it means. I was a bit embarrassed. Yusaga cried out. Quickly use it, Dr. Z. Is it okay? Nod. Lee Gilyoung nodded vigorously.
You don't need to worry about us. All the items contained here are yours. That's obvious.
Yeah, I was caught, so let's do it quickly. Then I'll use it well. A few constellations are nodding at your decision. I took the nucleus of the grade 7 demon in my pocket. I had cut it from the dead body of the Dark Keeper. In addition, I took out Broken Faith, which had run out of durability. According to the original plot, the use of this box was simple. Who knew there'd be a limited edition coin item? I placed the demon core and Broken Faith into the box. You couldn't believe my words? Is it real? Put sub-items in there and close the box. In fact, I didn't know what would happen when I put these 2 items in, but I was certain that something huge would come out of it. The top item will unconditionally come out. And a moment later, a dazzling light burst out from the closed box. Thank you very much for joining me for this humble little reading tonight. If you enjoyed it, feel free to pop a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time in Part 7, Episode 6, Judgment Time. Bye-bye.